Hi, welcome to the Spiritual View. Today we're talking about spirit guides.
I'm Christina.
I'm Bisma.
I'm Christine.
And I'm Carlene. And we're going to tell you about the whys, whats, and hows of spirit guides.
Yeah,
we all have them.
Yeah.
So you might not know or be aware of them, but we have these guides that are in spirit form, and they can change throughout our lives, and we can ask for their help whenever we need it. So anybody have any stories or?
I can start with like a general outline. So we have angels, which may or may not fall in the spirit guide category, but they are in the unseen world and supporting us. Then there's ascended masters, teachers. Some people may consider their loved ones to be spirit guides. Any goddesses, like Greek god characters. I mean, it could be pretty much any physical representation of what a guide may look like to you. But their energy is always supportive and loving and personalized for you and your own development. And I was going to say one more thing about that.
I think that through our life, like before we come into this world, we have agreements to basically help them with something, and they in return help us accomplish what we need to do in this life.
I feel like our guides, our spirit guides, they also, we have a guardian angel that stays with us from birth until we return to the spirit world. But specifically with guides, they come at different phases of life. So you're not necessarily going to have the same guide throughout your whole lifetime. If you're going to need a specific guide for a certain situation, certain phase in your life, and then you kind of, I guess, graduate to the next level, and you have another guide that comes in and helps you and picks up wherever you left
I remember what I was going to say. Okay, so there's our own personal guides, and then there's guides that we can tap into. So like there's archetypal guides, or like master teachers like Buddha or Jesus or Mother Teresa, or like all those kinds of energies we can tap into to receive guidance. So they're technically spirit guides, but there's also spirit guides that are more personal to us. It's like angels. We have our personal angels, and then there's archangels, which have unlimited energy to give to anyone who calls upon them. It's kind of like that. So it's like, I guess that's two different categories: personal versus collective.
collective unconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they can come and, like, spirit guides can be of so many. I mean, you can have animal spirit guides, you can have totems, like, unlimited, basically.
What is the difference between animal guides and totems?
I
never understood that.
I'm not the trainer, but I think it's more of like maybe a symbolism thing?
Like the animal, the totem, I think, is tapping into the energy spirit of that species.
So it's like a spirit animal versus
like
an animal guide.
kind of like, talking about dogs in general, as opposed to a specific dog that's going to be helping you with something specific.
Oh.
Like,
That's a good way to put it.
yeah. Like the energy of what does the dog represent.
So it's the personal versus the collective again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So spirit guides can be really personal too.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of the ways that they communicate with us is through our dreams. Sometimes they'll come in and tell you helpful things when you're going through some difficult times, have messages. They can also, if you have a question that you want to ask and you just ask them, they can present themselves in different ways. Synchronicity is one way that they can.
In the next episode, we're going to talk more specifically about how to connect with their guides. And there's so many ways. And there's so many ways that they communicate to us, too.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about.
Yeah,
So synchronicities is like a whole topic.
It's definitely about becoming sensitive, learning how your spirit guides connect with you, and becoming sensitive to that, and connecting as much as you can so you can get a stronger feel of who is coming through or what message is coming through.
And I think there's there's different levels of guides, right? So you generally typically have 2 or 3 that are really
Your main
focused on you,
ones.
your main ones.
At that phase in life.
Yes, and of course they can change.
Mhm.
And you can also, like, if you don't feel like they're working for you, you can actually like say, I want a new guide, and invite a new guide in instead.
Yeah.
If you feel like something's not working out. So
Yeah.
it's like having friends, and
Friends in high places.
yes,
That's good.
And basically, like any of the like mainstream psychics or mediums that are out there that are really intuitive and making a living on it, every single one of them talks about spirit guides, and it is really essential to have team members on the other side. And a lot of times, intuitive workers or healers will use spirit guides as a middleman. Like shamans will use spirit guides as a middleman between the physical world and the spirit world, and they help to facilitate you meeting other energies or you obtaining information. So it's kind of, they're kind of like a bridge for us a lot of times. Yeah. So we could share like a personal story about us and our own personal spirit guides.
Sure.
I think of one.
I'm trying to think. Okay, let's see. Me personally, I always had a really hard time connecting, or at least feeling connected to spirit guides and angels and our team, right? Our spiritual team. Obviously, they're always there, whether you feel them or not. You know, whether you feel connected or not, they're there. But I always had a really hard time. That feeling is such a huge sense for me. It's how I read into everything in life. That's just my number one go-to to get information. And so when I wasn't feeling my spirit guides, I started getting really frustrated, you know. And this was towards the beginning of learning about all this stuff. And once I finally broke through that barrier, I guess, I started to feel a lot lighter, and I started to feel, I guess really just the word is connected, you know. That sensation finally came through, but it took some time. It took some time practicing and took some time releasing a lot.
Because you gotta meet them at the vibration.
Yeah, right? So if you're feeling frustrated, which I felt frustrated for a very long time, don't give up. You know, like they're there, and just continue to try. And in the next video, we'll talk about different ways to connect. But at the very beginning, it could kind of feel a little lonely, you know, like because you know that they're there, but it's like, why aren't they coming to me in my dreams? Why can't I see them? What's their name? You know, sometimes that identification, those ways of identifying things, it helps you just relate, you know, to feel connected and to feel and to be able to relate. So that was a big thing for me, and that was a big hurdle. And amazingly, once I released that, everything fell into place. So don't give up if you're feeling frustrated. That's just one of my personal experiences with spirit guides from the beginning.
Do you want to go?
Sure.
Go for it.
I picked something. Okay, so ever since a really, really young age, I've been really aware of supporting energies around me, and I didn't really know what to call them. And I remember being in like elementary school and talking to other kids about it and being like, well, what, like, you know, telling them what I'm like, I feel sometimes guided that, you know, to go this direction and not this direction because this is unsafe. And it's like, I'm told that this is the safer way to go. And I'm wondering, you know, is it like an angel? Is it like an old grandma or like great grandma or grandpa that I never met that's helping me? And other kids are just like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I really didn't have much guidance when I was younger, but as I grew up and I've learned more about what spirit guides are, I definitely realized that I've had some sort of protective energy that I was really, really aware of. And then when I started my hypnosis training and I did some childhood regression therapy, I went back to a memory when I was probably 5, and I was alone, sitting on the grass with my dog, and I was talking to myself, and I was like, so I'm like in the memory, and I'm like, I'm talking to myself, but I feel like I know I'm talking to someone, and they're comforting me because my brother is down the street, and my mom's locked herself in her room, and my dad, I haven't seen my dad for months, and I was really alone, and so it was like I was being comforted and having one-on-one connection with spirits because I didn't have physical companions, and that's really what kind of helped me really connect to the spirit world in the first place. So I am grateful for that neglect, I guess you would say. But then through a hypnosis session, we moved further along, and I realized that I had an opportunity to meet this energy. And at the time, I wasn't very clairvoyant, and I wasn't seeing anything. But I started to feel this loving feeling, and then behind my eyes, I saw like this pink light that kind of was like changing into a magenta purple, and then like bright pink light. And the person facilitating my session was like, well, since it doesn't look like anyone, what does it feel like? And I just said, it feels like unconditional love. And then I just felt from like my head to my toe, my hair's like everywhere, stand up on end. And then I saw an image of what we would consider an angel, right? It was a woman with wings, and she had like this band on her head. And in the hypnosis training, they ask for a name, which sometimes guides don't give you a name because that's a really human thing for us to want to name everything. It's just energy, right? But I actually did see a name spelled out clairvoyantly, and it was Azrael, but it wasn't the typical spelling of I think it's an archangel. And I just knew in that moment that this was my personal angel that I've had and that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. And it was a really cool realization. And there is no concrete explanation from anyone or anything about what it was. It was just a knowing within myself that I had to trust. And now I have that energy that I'm aware of and that I have a name for that I can call upon, which we'll talk about in the next episode. But it's just this amazing feeling. And it's just the unconditional love is intense. It's very, very cool to be able to tap into that, when I want to. Yeah.
So I have many times, especially when I was a child, like have spirit guides come in my dreams. Now I feel like it's more consciously kind of many different avenues of tapping in, but definitely in my dreams, spirit guides would pop in and just, it's funny because it would just be there and then just tell me a message, but it was so blunt, and I feel like now looking back, I don't know if I always understood it, but there's always a meaning, a feeling behind it, which I feel was exactly what I needed. But yeah, just popping in and out of my dreams, just feeling that support, I remember one time I was having a really bad dream, and all of a sudden I was laying in someone's lap, and the guide, my guide was just like rubbing my head and saying, "It's okay, you're okay, you're okay," like just kind of giving me that love and protection, and that was like exactly what I needed. It was really beautiful. So.
What was the feeling of that guide? Like, what do you think was it protective? Was it nurturing? Was it loving?
Everything, like motherly, nurturing. It was just like I was safe. Yeah. And I can share this. I tried to look up at the guide's face because it was like a mother holding me, and the guide was saying, "Oh, no, you can't see my face right now, but just it's okay, close your eyes."
That's cool.
Interesting. Yeah. And I felt safe and didn't even need to look up again. So
cool.
So I haven't had. Well, I don't feel like I've wanted to connect consciously with my guides so much, but when I did have readings done by other people, and when they describe my guides, it feels very familiar. Like, oh yeah, that always happens, and of course that would be my guide. Like, one of them is very mischievous, and he'll make me do stupid mistakes sometimes just so that I don't take myself too seriously. Like, he'll make me open something and everything will spill on the floor. And I can't get mad at myself. I just have to laugh because at that moment, all I needed was something to kind of break the tension of like, you're focusing too much on something and just you need to slow down. So like I know that guide definitely exists, and when somebody described him I was like, yeah, I laughed at myself a lot.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's something that always happens. And then another one, when they described it I was like, okay, I've seen that in my dream. So when you get confirmation like that, so if you don't feel like you can personally connect with your guides, sometimes it helps to have somebody else take a look. And then when they tell you, it might feel very familiar to you.
It resonates.
Yeah.
So, well, that's awesome. Okay, so that was just a basic knowledge of types of guides. The next video is going to be about ways that we connect with them. So it's going to be a little bit more in depth. We'll share some more stories about our experiences. So stay tuned and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.